Maybe it's a sign that the Kansas City Chiefs are absolutely loaded at wide receiver. Maybe it's a sign that Patrick Mahomes is on fire and in mid-season form here in early August. Maybe it's a sign that the Kansas City Chiefs are destined to win the Super Bowl. Maybe it's just some combination of the three. But it seems that every day at practice for the Kansas City Chiefs, there is not just a wide receiver that stands out. There are multiple wide receivers that stand out, and it's not always the same guys. So real quick, guys, if you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. But what we're here to talk about today is maybe the newest fan favorite wide receiver buried on the depth chart and unlikely to make the 53-man roster. We'll get into that at the end, but I want to start with some tweets about practice, all from today. Pete says, it's worth noting here that Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown out, Tyquan Thornton and Brownlee have become more important. I asked Mahomes about both players after the workout. Brownlee and Thornton got to step up and make plays, and they have done that. That speaks to the depth of this receiving room this year. Coach Reed, Veach, all those guys brought in a lot of great talented players, and they're making plays whenever they get the opportunity to. Then we have a play later in the practice. Minshew had a touchdown pass to Brownlee on an outbreaking route in the end zone. Brownlee held onto the ball as he rolled to the ground. Roland Wallace broke up the pass to Brownlee on the next play. That's two different passes to Brownlee in consecutive plays from backup quarterback Gardner Minshew. He's catching passes from Mahomes. He's catching passes from Minshew. He is doing the work that he has to put in this training camp to make the team. What has he done thus far in his NFL career? Well, not a whole lot. In 2023, he played in 7 games for the Jets, starting 5 of them, where he garnered 8 targets, 5 receptions, 56 yards with an 11.2-yard average, a touchdown, and 2 first downs. That's not bad work for a UDFA wide receiver during the course of a season. You would like to see a little bit more action with the targets and the receptions, but that's not terrible. So think of it this way. He did 1/5 of the work that Sky Moore did in his first and second years in the league. Not together, but individually. Sky Moore had 250 yards as a rookie, 249 yards in his sophomore campaign in the NFL. I think he had 0 touchdowns as a rookie and 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns as a second-year player, something like that. So that 1 touchdown that Brownlee scored is comparable to the work. Now, don't quote me on Sky Moore's stats. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I think it was something close to that. He played 311 offensive snaps, only 13 special team snaps. That is going to be a dire statistic, perhaps, in accordance with him potentially making the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, 311 offensive snaps, 8 targets. You're looking at a target every 40-ish reps. So, not terrible. You're looking at basically a target per game. Not the biggest workload, obviously, but for a UDFA guy, that is not terrible work. What did he do in college? Well, in college, don't look at that next part yet, as he had 2 junior seasons at Southern Mississippi, 34 receptions, 610 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 2020. In 2021, he had 46 receptions, for 643 yards and 8 touchdowns, so he got a little bit more work, but his average per reception came down, meaning that he was counted on at a more play-to-play basis. And then in 2022, he had 55 receptions, 891 yards, and 8 touchdowns with an average of 16.2 yards per reception. So he never truly broke out in college, but he had 3 solid seasons there. So that is maybe not the most promising thing to see, but it's certainly a promising thing to see. Now, in the video this morning, I got some comments, okay? And I want to let you know, I read the comments. It's difficult for me to keep up with everything. I apologize for that. I do struggle with it. It's a lot of time. Where I get hung up is I don't want to give anyone a quick response. So I get paralysis by analysis, and then I just end up not responding to anything, even though I've got 15 different responses running through my head. So I've got to do better. I know. I'm working on it. But I got this comment from Lex Kwando 6836. Jesus Christ with the RAS scores, enough already. And a response to that comment from Justin Blackwell, check the glasses, RAS is going nowhere. You listen here, you miserable snots. I apologize that I am not Colin Cowherd, where I can turn on the camera, fart into the microphone, and pretend that it makes me intelligent. I apologize that I am not Skip Bayless, just getting angry about everything and assuming that it makes for an actual take. You will have to forgive me for not being Shannon Sharp and just getting excited through every take I ever give and assuming that what will make up for perhaps lack of analysis is a whole lot of oomph, which might be one of Shannon Sharp's problems in life, a little too much oomph. And I apologize that I'm not Mike Florio, pretending or assuming or just sort of declaring that my opinion is the final opinion. I try to use facts as often as possible. So we're going to do that again. Here is the RAS score for Jason Brownlee, not presented in isolation. Here is the RAS score for Rashee Rice. Why bring these two players up at the same time? Well, it appears to me that Jason Brownlee is going to be looked at for a possible stand-in for Rashee Rice during his absence. There is a role for the sturdy, strong wide receiver in this offense. That is what Rashee Rice does. That is something I don't think Xavier Worthy can do very well. That's something that is outside the purview of what you want from Hollywood Brown, considering that it doesn't have to do with bubble wrap. And I think probably going down the roster, Juju Smith-Schuster is the obvious choice here. But we're going to get to that in a moment. We're going to get to the quandary of Juju in a moment. But Jason Brownlee maybe has the most promise of any of the wide receivers on the roster right now that could probably play this role, this Rashee Rice role. And by any of the wide receivers that could do it, I mean Rashee Rice, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Jason Brownlee. So what's the comparison here? What are we looking at? An overall RAS of 8.92 for Jason Brownlee, 9.53 for Rashee Rice. So obviously Rashee Rice is the better athlete, but you had to spend a second-round pick to get him. You picked up Jason Brownlee as a free agent, so that makes sense. 9.5-inch hands for Rashee Rice, 9 3/4 for Jason Brownlee, edge to Brownlee. Arm length of 32 3/4 inches for Rashee Rice, arm length of 33 3/4 inches for Jason Brownlee. Absolute monstrous arm length on Jason Brownlee. 6 foot tall and 1/2 inch for Rashee Rice, 6'2" for Jason Brownlee, edge Jason Brownlee. 204 pounds for Rashee Rice, 198 for Jason Brownlee, though I believe he is listed at like 201 for the Chiefs right now. I believe that is where he's at. Rashee Rice did not do the bench. Jason Brownlee did 16 reps. It's a pretty good number for a wide receiver. An elite of elite 41-inch vert for Rashee Rice, 39.5 for Jason Brownlee, certainly good enough. A 10-foot 8-inch broad jump for Rashee Rice, an elite of elite 10-foot 11-inch broad jump for Jason Brownlee. So they're both explosive athletes. They split the explosive scores. Rashee Rice taking the vert, Jason Brownlee taking the broad jump. This is where it gets a little bit ugly for Jason Brownlee. A 4.59 40-yard dash compared to the 4.51 for Rashee Rice. Neither of those numbers are the greatest 40-yard dash you're ever likely to see. Then the 20-yard split, basically the same kind of split between the two. 2.62 for Brownlee, 2.54 for Rice. A 1.56 10-yard split for Brownlee, a 1.5 flat for Rice. Rice has much better 20 and 10-yard splits, adding to the explosiveness, than does Jason Brownlee. For what it's worth, Jason Brownlee's 10 and 20 are much better than his 40. Then we have a 4.32 short shuttle for Brownlee, a 4.23 for Rice, a 6.913 cone for Brownlee, a 7.02 for Rice. So they split the agility numbers as well, with Rashee Rice doing decent in both of them and Brownlee having a pretty bad short shuttle. So here is the quandary. So I know we got an unofficial depth chart. That's kind of a messy ordeal. The depth chart right now is not exactly what it is that I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is week 1. What the depth chart is right now is very interesting for commentary purposes right now. But I want to know brass tacks, week 1, things are official. What will this depth chart look like? And right now, I don't know if I can put Jason Brownlee above the 8th player on this list, which, by the way, starting the season with Rashee Rice injured, or Rashee Rice suspended, means that if the Chiefs keep 7 wide receivers as opposed to 6, Jason Brownlee's one of those 7. But they go like this. Rashee Rice is undoubtedly, I think, your number 1 wide receiver. Unfortunately, he will be playing his 2nd consecutive abbreviated year. Then you have Xavier Worthy in his 2nd year in the NFL. We are looking to have the breakout performance from Xavier Worthy that Rashee Rice had last year, and the evolution that Rashee Rice was looking to have during the rest of the season. Hollywood Brown in his 2nd year with the Chiefs. Okay, we have to make it to regular season football before I feel particularly good about this. But I will say that going back and watching some of those playoff games from last year where Brown was available, when he was targeted, he looked good. I don't know where he disappeared sometimes, but when he was targeted, he looked good. The number 4 name that I was willing to put here was Jalen Royals. though I think Jalen Royals will be in that number 3 spot before too terribly long. He is a wide receiver that can do anything the Chiefs ask of him. So while, yes, he is another guy that could slide into that wide receiver 1 role for the Chiefs and might end up doing it in the absence of Rashee Rice, I don't think that's the plan they have for him. I don't think that's what they want to do with him. I think they have an individualized plan for Jalen Royals, and they want to roll that out the same way that they did with Rashee Rice 2 years ago, the same way that they did with Xavier Worthy last year. You started Xavier Worthy with a whole lot more end around handoffs than where he ended the season. Where he ended the season in the Super Bowl was kind of the vision that we had for Xavier Worthy the whole time. Bombs away. So I think that they will have an individualized plan for Jalen Royals. Then we come to Tyquan Thornton. At this point, I cannot imagine Tyquan Thornton not making this roster. There are people all the time who point out, well, yeah, but Justin Ross had hype before his first season here. Sky Moore had hype before his first season here. We know how both of those things turned out. Kadarius Toney had some hype in the preseason, don't you know? None of them consistently did what it is that Tyquan Thornton is consistently doing. Then, fine, you're talking me into it. Number 6, Juju Smith-Schuster, but I don't feel great about it. I feel like right now it's just a name on a name place. It's a space holder with a name tag on it. Then we have Nico Remigio, who I don't think you can convince me at this point doesn't make the roster simply from the special teams perspective. That's 7 right there. Then I have Jason Brownlee. Jason Brownlee's not returning punts. Jason Brownlee's not returning kickoffs. Jason Brownlee's not covering, probably, punts or kickoffs. So that is rough for him. It's difficult right now to envision him making this Chiefs roster. But man, do I want to see it. Just look at that list of names there. And I'm not talking about Elijah Badger. I'm not talking about Mac Delana. I'm not talking about any of the sort of pet projects that I have adopted on this channel throughout the years. But those names right there look to be very formidable from a wide receiver core perspective. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.